Perpetual wealth is basically showing people how to use a high cash value life insurance policy as a place to put money and then to bank out of that particular account. In other words, create volume and velocity of money out of that particular account. And you can finance your own automobiles and all kinds of different things. And the fact that it's inside of a totally 100% tax-free vehicle called life insurance can really make it an attractive asset over a long period of time.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the show. My name is Tiffany Alexander, and this is Unveiling Journeys. I'm so happy to have you here. If this is your return session, come back. Thanks. Welcome. Coming back again. If this is your first time here, I'm excited for you. A little bit about me. I love the power of networking, high-level mastermind groups, seminars, so many things where you're paying to listen to an expert because by all means, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I want to leave with like amazing things. And the journey of kind of where I started is similar in the space where John is at. And so I'm excited to have him on the show because he's come from this to that, and we get to hear a little bit about his journey. And we met back in the seminar space, like Robert Allen style. That was the thing. And he was the expert in the room for me that I was looking at the advice to get. And then we've stayed incredible friends since. So with that, thank you, John, so much for coming on the show. Everybody, I want you to hang out, buckle up. And John, tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now or like what you're up to.
Okay. First of all, thanks for having me on, Tiffany. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to meet and connect with you. You're such a phenomenal person, and I love what you're doing in the podcast space. So thanks for having me on. What I am up to is what I've been up to for, on or off for a little over 30 years. And I show people how to create tax-free generational wealth. And we do that with several different avenues, but probably for about the last 15 years, we've been showing people how to make money without having their money in the stock market. Now, I'm not anti-stock market. So, like people say, you could make so much money in the stock market. I'm not anti-stock market. I am anti all your eggs in one basket and anti no other options. And there's a lot of other options out there to diversify, your portfolio, your income, those kind of things. So we help people from all over the country. I think we have clients in, last time I checked, about 35 states. So we're always excited about that. And they come to us because we do offer, some things that aren't in the traditional marketplace, a new way to look at things, different way to look at things. And I guess that about covers it.
Yeah. I mean, the first time that we had this discussion, you're like, Tiff, I've got this amazing thing I'm working on. And you called it perpetual wealth. And that word alone means different for some people. But coming from real estate, where it's super transactional, understanding that you could create this system to be able to perpetual, like those watches that are perpetual. It's always in motion. And being able to have that, I was blown away by it. Which of course you immediately like, let me send you some flyers. Let me send you some books. You should do it with me. You're the reason that I decided to go get my life insurance license to do this. And then I realized that wasn't kind of my bucket of where I should be. So that's okay. But
that's right.
I love this so much that I want to hear. Let's do this though. I want to go back to the very beginning of your journey, like the story of where you're at. Where are you from? Like, where did you grow up? All the way into like, what did you want to be when you grew up? Did you go to school for anything? And then we'll start there.
Okay, that's a long time. You see all this gray hair. That means it's a long time ago. You're asking me to my old mind to go back to, but I'll try. So in school, I was basically a C student on my best day and a lot worse than that on my worst day. I was kind of a juvenile delinquent, raised a lot of hell, and just was kind of a clown. School wasn't my forte. Made a lot of friends there, had a great time. And I'll tell you later how my high school ended up making me a ton of money. But in the traditional school sense, I was just not a good fit. So, when you're 18 years old and you're getting out of high school, it's kind of the first time you're asked to make an adult decision as to what you might want to do with your life. And in my mind, I had basically three choices. One was go to college. Well, after my experience in high school, that wasn't really top of my list. Next one was go into the military service. And I did meet with a recruiter, Army recruiter, but he scared me to death because he said the same number twice and it was 5. And it was 5 a.m. and 5 miles. Now, Tiff, your people could take one look at me through this camera and know, unless there's a Burger King at the end of that 5 miles, I'm not going, right? And they shoot at you. And I thought, well, let me rethink maybe this military thing. And the third thing was, okay, I could go out and try to be a contractor of some kind, right? Electrician, plumber, etc., carpenter. The only problem with that is I am the most pathetically mechanically inclined male on the planet. My wife now my kids are older, but when we were putting together toys at Christmas, my wife would put them together because she said it was just too painful for her to watch me. So I did end up going to school for 2 years. I went to college for 2 years, a small business college in mid-Michigan called Northwood, and liked it. My grades actually were probably the best I've ever done, mainly because my mom had laid it on the line and said, look, I can afford to pay for this. Now, one big milestone I left out was a couple years before that. I lost my dad when I was in 8th grade. He passed away. Yeah. So my mom told me he had left us in a position that through life insurance that my mom could pay for the schooling, but she was going to give me one semester. And if I did the same thing I did in high school, forget it. That's it. We're done. So I did well, actually, for 2 years. And I went for 2 years, but just hated being there. I was kind of homesick. I was a homebody. I'm very fortunate. I come from a very big, extended family. So I was home every weekend. I was only about 2.5 hours. I live in Metro Detroit, Northwoods in mid-Michigan. So it was about 2.5 hours away. And I came home and I saw an infomercial back in the days when infomercials ruled the cable TV. And it was an infomercial on how to learn how to buy real estate with no money, no job, and no credit. And I had all of those. I had no money, no job, and no credit. So I figured I was destined for success in the real estate investment world. My mom wasn't thrilled to hear that I was leaving school, but I did and started investing in real estate, although the going was slow because I had no mentors really other than, some books and tapes that you used to buy back then. No one in my family was from business or real estate or anything like that. So I had a ton to learn, but, I kind of slugged my way through it and started to do really, really well. And to summarize that, made a bunch of money, lost a bunch of money, made a bunch of money back. And then eventually I got good enough where people had started to seek me out to go teach other people how to invest in real estate, which is where, you and I met along that seminar route a lot of years ago now. I don't know, 17, 18 years ago, maybe.
Yep.
Something like that. And I really enjoyed that. I love teaching. I love showing people different ways and seeing their eyes light up. I didn't enjoy the travel. That got to be a little much being on an airplane, as you well know. Every week it got to be tiresome, but I really did enjoy it. That led me to write a couple books. You mentioned the Perpetual Wealth System. That was my first book. And that's what we help people with today. And Perpetual Wealth is basically showing people how to use a high cash value life insurance policy as a place to put money and then to bank out of that particular account. In other words, create volume and velocity of money out of that particular account. And you can finance your own automobiles and all kinds of different things. And the fact that it's inside of a totally 100% tax-free vehicle called life insurance can really make it an attractive asset over a long period of time. And eventually, as you get towards retirement, you start taking money out of it. And the money that you take out of that policy is 100% tax-free. So it has the same taxation as a Roth IRA, but just a lot of other benefits that Roth can't offer. So when I found out that concept, I don't know, going close to 20 years ago, I decided that I wanted to get involved with that. And I did, and I have, and I've been involved with that ever since. And then I would still go do some seminars and some traveling, but it was more just to teach that particular concept. And, again, been all over North America teaching that particular concept along with some other ones. And that leads me back to, basically what we do today. Me and a small team of people work with people all over the country and help them with their finances, protect their wealth, grow their wealth, create generational wealth. It really is the key to, having wealth pass on to your kids and grandkids, and not just the money or the assets, but showing them what to do with it. Because there's plenty of people who inherit money and go out and buy a couple Lamborghinis and a big house, and within 2, 3, 5 years, they're broke.
Wow.
Because they didn't understand, the financial concepts that acquired that wealth in the first place. So that's kind of what we specialize in, I should say. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's about it. Did I ramble on long enough with my little bio?
Well, it was good. There are some questions I have littered in between it. Whenever you took this first seminar, what were some of the thoughts like going through your head? Because that's exactly where I landed, the same exact place. It shifted my life forever and going into doing real estate. Like, what were some of the deals you started working on straight out of this seminar?
Yeah. So first of all, I have to tell you, I didn't go to seminars because I didn't really have the money. I started off with home study courses.
How about that?
So books and tapes and trying to figure it out. And it's funny. One of them I did with my mom. My mom has unfortunately since passed away, but she was a go-getter her whole life. And we were listening to this tape and reading this little manual. And we went out in our little marketplace and we found this little house, made the guy a verbal offer and he accepted it. And we looked at each other like, now what do? We didn't really want the house. So we didn't end up buying it, but it gave me, enough realization that there were deals out there. So It took me, I think, my first 8 or 9 months, I didn't buy anything. I was learning a lot, and I was going out there and figuring out how the system worked above and beyond the books and the tapes. And then I found a little for sale by owner. I'll never forget. I saw the sign out there. I called the guy and I asked him basically if he would consider taking back a second mortgage on the house if we went, me and a partner went and pulled the first mortgage, and that would make it a 100% financing deal. And I had made that offer 50 times and everybody said no. And he said, yeah, I'll do that. And I about fell over. So I went and I bought that particular house with a partner. And then we ran across what I called my squirrel house. A crazy lady let squirrels live it all in her house and had the bins backed up to this back window, and they just tore that house up. But it was in a really nice area. We bought it, fixed it up, sold it. I want to say we made maybe $12,000, $15,000, which, we're talking 30 years ago. And for, when you're a broke kid still living at home, even half of that, is a pretty good chunk of money. And then to finish up that thought, once I did that deal, I found 4 bank-owned condominiums. And we bought all 4, flipped all 4, and we made about 30 grand. And I got half of that, which is, beer and pizza money for a year if you're a 20-year-old kid, 21-year-old kid, which is what I was. And then it just kind of took off from there. I eventually got a real estate license and ended up selling to investors from out of the area, from out of the country, frankly. And we did some retail real estate as well. And it just turned into quite the real estate career, all out of that first home study course where I said, this looks different. Let me give it a try. Even though people told me I was nuts, thankfully we made it work.
Absolutely. Now, one of the key memories that I have was, since you live in and around Detroit, you were there when properties were being given away by the city, $1, $500. And people were like, no, that's not possible. I literally flew to Detroit and we got in like a bus or a van and we drove around for these properties that you could buy, that the land or the bricks in it of itself, this cute little house you could buy. And you were saying, listen, you guys just have to trust me all over the country to be able to get into these little deals and turn them into your first month's rent is going to pay off your whole entire house. The taxes were a little bit crazy, but even that, well, there are some, just, when you see opportunity and you know how to jump on it before everybody else is too scared to get in. And then they get in too late because now all those properties have come back up in value. Tell me a
Yeah,
little bit about like that season of when that was
yeah,
crazy after the crash.
that was a crazy time. That was what precipitated that was obviously a huge real estate collapse. And just so people don't think everything is, my dad used to say it's not all beer and Skittles. Sometimes you go through some tough times. And at the time when the real estate market collapsed back in 7, 8, 9, it was worse here in Michigan than it was almost anywhere else, and it lasted longer. But I think between Michigan and Florida, another market that was destroyed at the time, I think I owned 17 houses. And the next thing you know, a bunch of people aren't paying you, robbing from Peter to pay Paul. And I got through all that, burned through a bunch of money. But on the back side of that, you're right. In my local marketplace, it was ridiculous. The properties you're talking about would have been actually in the city of Detroit, but you could actually also go into suburbia and these nice little 3-bedroom, 1-bath homes that would rent for $850 to $950 at the time, and buy them for $30,000 or $40,000, and that actually created a whole other business. I had a different partner at that point, and we worked with investors from all over the country, and we went from 0 houses under management to about 120 houses under management over a couple-year period. And we were handling the transactions for all those investors, finding it. Some of them would come, they would do a trip here, and we would take the day and show them kind of the neighborhoods, and they wanted to feel comfortable. But once we did that, we pretty much had carte blanche to make the decisions for them. And man, those people have done really, really well with those properties. Some still own them. And those same properties now that they bought for, let's say all in for 50, because most of them needed some work. They were all in for 50. They're all worth $200,000 and up
Yeah.
today. And plus they've made tremendous cash flow. Most of them paid cash for them because they were in a price range that they could. Some of them, we showed them how to use IRA money and self-directed IRAs to own them inside the IRAs. And so they made a bunch of cash flow inside those IRAs, all tax deferred. And a lot of people have since sold them, but we still have investors out there that I just heard from a guy last week, and he still has his 3, and he's considering selling them. But it was just an insane opportunity at that particular time. And now we're on the other side of that spectrum where the prices are crazy. Well, not crazy like California crazy, but for this marketplace, certainly higher than they ever have been, by far. So within a period from, let's say, 2008 to 2022, you went from the lowest prices in history per income anyways, to basically the highest. So it was really a grand opportunity if you could take advantage of that. And a lot of people did.
Yeah, yeah. Man, that was fun times. But it was also weird and high and low. And that was just like, it was like a side hobby that turned into like a full on business for you. When did you
It
circle back
did.
around to that dying down a little bit? Well, I guess, you had the management company, but when did you amp back up getting into this perpetual wealth?
So that I was doing during the whole time. So what I would do is I would show people, hey, look, you can buy these properties and we'll help you out. And if that's all you want to do, we can do that. And we were basically charging people $8,400 a house up front when they closed, which is why they were all in for 50, 55 by the time they paid us, and they paid for the rehabs 50, 55, something like that. But as we were doing that, I would say, hey, look, I can also show you how to run this money through a high cash value life insurance policy, borrow the money back out of it, and look what you'll have in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, the real estate. And you'll also have a pile of tax-free money inside this very liquid vehicle, called high cash value life insurance policy. So we did that with a percentage of our clients. So it worked out really, really well. So I was doing both at the same time. And if people didn't want to do that, it wasn't their thing, they never heard another thing about it. We didn't force it on anybody. We would just strictly do the real estate. But when a lot of people heard it, like, what do you mean you could be your own bank and put money in a tax-free vehicle and borrow it out and have the cash flow run through it and some, little more advanced things, a lot of people took advantage of it. And so they ended up making money on the real estate. And they also have their, lifelong life insurance policy that they can pull a tax-free income out of anytime they want to.
Man, I love that you were doing all this stuff because it was legendary to me. I was still in my 20s when we met and learning all of this stuff, and it seriously impacted the way that I perceived money. And I love that you were that person for me in my life. And still, like, hey, if you need a guy, you got to go reach out to John because he's still doing this with like incredibly high level people. Tell
Well,
me.
I'm glad I was able to be a positive influence. That's one of the reasons that I got in the seminar business in the first place. And if I was able to help you and your family a little bit, then hey, I'm very happy about it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Tell me a little bit more of what it looks like when someone's thinking to themselves, "Oh my gosh, I should have this conversation with you." Like what kind of people do you feel like identify that they should reach out to you?
So we have basically two sets of quote unquote ideal clients. The first one, if we're talking about high cash value life insurance and private banking, that's typically, someone who's employed, who's making more money than they spend. And they're anywhere between 25 and 55. Depends on, what their goals are, what they're trying to do. But there's a lot of different ways to fund that life insurance policy. And a lot of it will depend on the details of that particular client in that 25 to 55 range. And again, making money, they've got some resources, or maybe they don't have any resources put away yet, but they're making more money than they spend. They have some stable income, and they would like to, fund a 100% tax-free vehicle, have access to the money, which is different than a Roth, have it be very liquid and be their own private bank. So that's kind of the first set of clients. We also work with clients with two other things: how to take their retirement accounts that they have and grow and protect those and turn those into lifelong paycheck machines. And that particular client is somewhere between usually 50 and 75 years old. We might be doing rollovers from those particular accounts into other accounts that protect the money, that grow the money, can actually grow it at a pretty solid rate. And then eventually the people can take a lifelong paycheck out of it. So that's more for people that are a little more established. They already have usually some qualified money. And qualified just means IRAs, old 401ks, 403bs, TSPs. Those are all under the umbrella of qualified money. And so that would kind of be the second group. And also in that second group, we show people how to use what's called asset-based long-term care, which, long-term care can destroy everything you've worked for your entire life. And most people's plan to deal with it is wish and hope. And we show
Yeah.
people that, hey, just by allocating a little bit of what you already have into a different vehicle that's built to leverage long-term care if you ever need it, you can really save everything else. And if you never need the long-term care, then you're going to leave by making that particular investment in that kind of a vehicle. If you never need the long-term care, you'll eventually leave more money behind for your family than you would have before you put the money in the vehicle. So, you win either way. Either you use the money for long-term care, which, nobody really wants to do that. Obviously, we're hoping we don't have to have a nurse to come in, or we have to go into a facility or something like that. But if you do, it's very, very expensive. And it's nice to have something set up if that happens. And if you never need that and you leave this earth in a little more traditional way, then you leave a bunch more money behind for your family or causes, charities, whatever it is. So it works out either way. So those are basically our two sets of clients, real broad range there.
Yeah, I love that. Some of this stuff has had highs and lows in this. And you could have easily at this point been like, you know what, I'm going to move my family to an island with a cocktail in my hand. But you keep doing this. You keep showing up. You keep meeting with clients. You're so generous with your time. Why do you keep trying so hard for all of this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I just enjoy it. Number one, first of all, I'm not breaking rocks, right? I'm not in a steel mill. So this is what I'm doing with you is what I do most days. Usually we just have some financial figures on a computer screen and I'm going over with clients from all over the country. So it's not hard work per se, where it's taxing on my body or even my time. I've pulled back a little bit. I don't work with people as much as I used to with as many clients, but I still have a fire for it. In fact, today, about an hour after we're done, I've got my first meeting with a client from Utah, and we'll have our initial conversation, and we'll see if we can, be an asset to her. And I'm looking forward to that. I just like it. Always have. I've always liked the financial stuff, the real estate stuff. I was a junkie when it came. Once I decided what I wanted to do, I was a junkie on information. I mean, I probably have spent, God, it's got to be $300,000 on books and tapes and seminars and coaching and you name it. I paid for it. And so when you have that kind of fire, it still sticks with you. I think as I get a little bit older, it's dimmed a little bit, but it's enough where, I still enjoy doing what I do. And what else am I going to do? You can only play so much golf, and I'm in a position where most of my friends, the ones that they're not in a position to retire and spend all day. So what else am I going to do? I enjoy it. And as long as I'm still able to do it, I think for the foreseeable future, I'll still be doing it at some level.
I love that. Excuse me. What is like if someone's like, I don't really know, am I a good fit? You're open to have a conversation with them, right?
Well, certainly. In fact, usually what we do is we can send them some educational material first and let them, really take a look at it, get a list of questions down. Our best client is an educated client.
Mm-hmm.
It's in fact, it will never happen that we talk to somebody and we're taking applications on the spot. It just doesn't happen because we won't allow that to happen, even if they're excited and they want to move forward. What I always tell people is I want these kinds of products. I want you to be the most educated you've ever been on any financial product before you use your own money and buy these products. And so we're an educational company first, and then basically a financial services company second.
Man, that's cool. What is your favorite way that if somebody at this point is like, "Oh my gosh, I resonate well. I totally want to have a conversation with you. I appreciate your demeanor and that the way you operate." Where do you want people to come find you to have this conversation?
So I guess maybe the first place I'd send them is to get a little bit of education. You can contact me directly from there as well. But if they went to a website called perpetualinsurance.com, Perpetual, Perpetual, perpetualinsurance.com, and then you'll see a registration page there. And they just put their name and email address, and then you're going to get a sequence of, I think it's 12 or 13 videos that will explain all kinds of life insurance, private banking, a concept called private pensions. There's just a really nice series of videos there that by the time you're done with that, you'll be more educated on how these work than most people that are licensed to sell them. And I
Yeah.
don't make that claim lightly, but that would be the case. And you can contact me from there. You can also, send me an email. I know that you'll have all my contact information below, but you can reach out to me directly if you'd rather not watch those videos. But what we find is a lot of people are like, tell me more. Well, okay, the best way to tell you more is to go to that site, register, watch the videos, and then we can have a personal consultation and we'll decide if we can be an asset for you or not.
Yeah, yeah. What this would be the last couple of questions. What do you feel like, hey, I love that you are just open to say, like, I spend money to educate myself, to further myself, to inspire myself, right? All these things. You can't really get complacent whenever you're self-employed, right? As an entrepreneur. And in that, you've taken away so many nuggets of wisdom you've passed on to so many people. What are like one or two of your favorites that you love to tell people?
Well, it's funny. It's basics, and yet basics and common sense, and people violate it. First one is it's very simple: save some, spend some. Right. So whatever your income level is, whether it's 50,000 or 150 or 1.5 million, whatever it is, spend some of it, but also put some of it away. And you'd be surprised. You go through a big time neighborhood, and I deal with clients sometimes who have really good incomes, or they've had good incomes, but they have next to nothing because they spend it all and they have huge monthly obligations and can't put anything away. And yet, by the same token, I also have people who, they've never spent a dime in their life. And I'm thinking there's got to be a happy median in there somewhere. You want to enjoy your life because you don't know how many days you have left. And why not enjoy it while you're here? But at the same token, you also want to put something away for a rainy day and to be able to pull back if you want to, and then maybe leave a chunk of money behind for somebody else. And the simplest way to do that is spend some, save some. Now, there's a little more complicated way. It's called red money, green money. And we've got videos that we can send to people. Again, it's maybe 10, 12 minutes, and it's me talking about red money, green money. And it's just a simple financial plan that anybody can use. And I don't care, if you're sophisticated, unsophisticated, middle income, high income, there's a simple system to handle your cash flow that will grow into assets, and those assets will spit off income. And it's not that difficult, but it does need to be put in place. So bottom line, spend some, save some.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. I think even the people that are like super good at this stuff, it's nice to have those little refreshers every now and again. Um, Man, this has been so fun. Is there anything like on the horizon, like you're launching, anything crazy going on that you want to tell us?
Nothing launching per se that I can think of. Again, I got my 2 books out there, and I would just say for people to take their time and go to that perpetualinsurance.com and watch those videos. And from there, if you want to get a couple copies of my books, please do. But I would say it would all start there. Other than that, nothing really exciting to launch. Just we're here looking to help as many people as we can. And if we can be a fit for any of you people that are listening to this show, we would love to.
Yeah. Well, tell me real quick what the names of your 2 books.
Okay, so the first one is called The Perpetual Wealth System. Now, I will tell people in advance the second part of that book is pretty dated now because it talks about that real estate market that was going on back in '08 and how ridiculous it was and the opportunity. First part of it is timeless because that's all about high cash value life insurance. But if you're only going to buy one, invest in one, make it the second one. It's called Wealth Without Stocks or Mutual Funds. And that's got a ton more information in it. What I talk about in the perpetual wealth system is covered inside Wealth Without Stocks or Mutual Funds. And that's loaded with 14 chapters of self-directed IRAs, how to be a private lender, real estate strategies, the life insurance, creating a private pension, a tax reduction, all kinds of cool stuff. I'm really that book now is, I don't know, is it 8, 9 years old? Maybe might be older than that now, but very proud of it. It's got a ton of information in it, and I think people would enjoy it.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for this. Thank you for coming on the show. I love that you've been able to share all these bits of wisdom and continue to impact people's lives with everything you're able to do. And it really does take for you to sit down one-on-one with everybody that you've been able to help. And then at the times, when we were getting group style, we were like, go flip a house.
Yeah.
But the iteration of where you're at right now, it's awesome to think you've invented all these systems and these videos for people just to plug right into. And so I'm grateful that you did all that stuff because it's not easy, right? You got to like put it together. You got to edit it. You put it on a
It
website.
is, yeah. It's kind of fun. Well, that's only the tip of the iceberg as far as what we have for people. Because what I did is I took those videos and put them in a nice sequence, so it's a legitimate class. But then we've got dozens and dozens of other videos: how to make money on your car. Why you might want to own your car instead of put money in a 401k. I used to do radio shows on that all the time, and that sounds kind of crazy, but we'll show you 5th grade math that it makes sense. So you're right; it takes a lot of effort, but once the content is there. Sometimes, Tiffany, I forget that I shot it. I was looking at my page the other day. I'm like, God, that's a good video. But I probably shot it 10 years ago, but it is still absolutely pertinent for today. So I sent it out to my list and said, hey, here's, it's an oldie but a goodie. And several people have said, wow, yeah, we like this one a lot. So sometimes you forget what you have when you've got, I don't know, if you shot a couple hundred videos, you just kind of lose track sometimes.
Absolutely. Oh man, that's it for everything I had for questions and whatnot. I thank you so much for your wisdom that you shared. And then everybody, don't forget to go check out the website. It's in all the show notes below. So that way you can come have time with John, look at the videos he's put out. So that way you can be just as educated as he wants you to be until you can take to the next steps where you want to go. If you guys made it this far, thanks for staying for the whole show. And I will see you guys next time. And last time, thanks, John, for coming
Thanks,
on the show.
Tiffany. I really enjoyed being here. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.